I called it. I called it twice. One, your boy said that Cthulhu Death May Die was going to be launching very shortly. I even said, you know what? They did a Wednesday last time. I think they're going to do Wednesday this time. Oh, October 26th. Boom! Next week. I'm talking about it more tomorrow. But I also said this was going to be a big week in crowdfunding, right? And you guys are going, well, Chris, there's only one project that's over 7 figures right now, and that's, Oathsworn. But right now, at the time of me filming this at the very beginning, before a couple of the ones even later in the week have launched, we have 8 games over 100,000, all launching on the same day, let alone the same week, let alone counting all of the other projects that are going up against those that have already gathered 6 figures, folks. I wasn't kidding. Like, I do a little hyperbole. I'm not as hyperbolous as, some of the other channels, but when I give you some hyperbole, I mean it. Know what that means. Anyway, that's all I got. Preamble over. Sneak peek to the Patreon people this week about what's going on behind the scenes. They got a little good stuff there going on, and when am I ever going to figure out how to use this freaking overhead camera better? Anyway, side note, let's go into it. What do you need to know this week? Also, quick side note, I'm going to try something separate this week. Value video. Saturday. Doubleheader. Boom, there you go. Let's do this. Backrockets finally updated their front page a little bit right here. You got the Spirit Island, which when it launched originally today, it wasn't even on this page. So there was a little bit of a delay there as well. And then in case you forgot about it, we have Daybreak ending, well, before this video airs. And if you're one of those 8,300 people like I am, $400,000, right, for another cooperative game. Boom. Looking good. Okay, let's get into the Spirit Island, though. That's why you tuned in. Okay, there's already been a lot of rumbling on the comment section for Spirit Island with what Greater Than Games sort of put out there on day one, which is a little bit surprising considering they are now veteran crowdfunders. We are literally less than 24 hours in and I'm filming at this point, and I'll do a little update at the end of the video so you can see, the difference between like Tuesday night and Thursday night when, sort of how the trend goes with some of these big projects, because it's always interesting to see, how much is that first 24-hour push and how much is that sustained push? Like we saw with Deep Madness last week, which kind of got this big $200,000 push in the first 24 hours and then kind of has plateaued. Now, there's a lot of grumbling because there's stuff on the page that just really wasn't included. Now, I know they want to do like a little bit of reveal, a little bit of keeping people enticed, keeping people engaged. So they just didn't tell us anything about the spirits. They said, we're going to unlock, or we're going to show you a spirit like every day or two, essentially is what they've done. So you don't know anything about the spirits. We don't have a rule book as far as I can tell on here as well. And they didn't really have, at least earlier today when it launched, a delivery date. So they've given a little bit of more of that information in terms of what also was going to be in the premium token pack number 2, because they gave absolutely no information on that in the page except for the pledge level that was going to have it. So they've clarified a little bit of that in the latest first update, that it's going to be delivered by, quote, the end of 2023, as well as the premium token is going to have more of the premium tokens from this Incarnate expansion, because Incarnate is the new mechanism that you're getting with this game. 8 new spirits, 20 new aspects, and these Incarnate tokens, Incarna, if you will, where physical representation of the spirit is going to give you an additional power, cool asymmetric thing for your spirit. But this is the big disclaimer, and this is going to be a turn off but a turn on for some people, is you have to have Jagged Earth for this, because it's going to be playing off of some of the tokens, the iconography, and the mechanics that were introduced in Jagged Earth. So if you don't have Jagged Earth, if you didn't want Jagged Earth, this one's also not for you, which is, again, was a very intriguing decision. Because if you were one of those people that said, I want to pick up one big box expansion, well, now you really have to get Jagged Earth. Or you're getting Branch and Claw and the promos. Like you can't just get this if you're choosing, which, again, is a blessing or curse depending on how much money you want to spend on this game. And it runs through what the components are. Here are the spirits that they're announcing in these updates. We had one today in the first day. I'm imagining subsequent days are going to have updates. So one adversary will be out there as well. But that's it. Like, they're using this achievement system. New major update will be revealed. I mean, the problem is you say this achievement system, but there's no explanation any further of the achievements system. So I don't know. It's just vague. It's just vague. They give the pledge levels here. The other question is $55 in greater than games previously has made it less expensive, or they've given something else additional. So I'm hoping that these achievements are going to be making it more worthwhile, because otherwise you're paying probably a higher retail price if you include shipping just for some foils. How do you feel about foils? Me personally, I have no interest in foils, but I'm going to watch this one until the very end. But ultimately, will I back it? Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, do I want to support greater than games? Do I want to support, a company at the retail side of things? How I want to do that? And what am I going to be missing? How much of a price difference is? Because if you look at $55 plus the $10 to $16 shipping at the bottom of the page for the United States, well, I'm looking at potentially around $70 for some extra foils. Well, if I go to Game Nerds, if I go to Mini Market, if I go to, any of those, $15 is not going to be the shipping cost. Probably $55 is not going to be their retail price either. They may mark it down to 50 or 45. So not only then am I going to save money on the cost, but I'm also going to save money on the shipping, even if I don't meet the free shipping threshold, because that's what you guys are going to say, right? Like, if you buy more, save more. No, I'm saying that's the case. But if they throw in something else besides these foils with those achievements, well, then that calculation I just did, throw that out the window. But we got to wait and see, which again is weird. Like, show me. Now, again, you can say that similarly, though, I guess you can make the argument that they didn't have to show anything. They're holding their cards so close to the vest, and still no one cares because it got $500,000 in, 12 hours or so. Less than 12 hours, essentially. But you can buy everything else, and you can get Horizons if you're outside of the US and all that stuff and blah, 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 blah. But that's all that's on the page, right? There's no testing of it. There's no explanation of it further. There's no mechanics. There's no spirits. There's no rule book. There's nothing. And I bash all the small ones for doing this. I bash everybody across the board. I love you, Spirit Island, but freaking give me more info on the beginning page. This is a little bit pendulum swinging too far ridiculous the other way. I don't need paid previews. I don't need bunches of stuff, but all you've shown me is, hey guys, there's this little token and it does something cool. Like, come on. You're not Simon. Be better than that at the same time. Anyway, Spirit Island, am I going to back it? All signs on the shaking the 8-ball still point to yes, but boy howdy, it didn't give the best first impression as much as I love it, and I'm just hoping to see more as the campaign reveals itself. So there will definitely be an update or two along the way with this one, because it's also got 30 freaking days. Holy long campaign, Batman. Campaign's not even going to be over by like Thanksgiving, essentially. That's essentially when it's going. Anyway, the Oathsworn dwarfed it in money, which we all figured it would. It's a more expensive pledge, but comparatively, not too many less backers, 5,300 here and 8,800 here. So not double the backers, but over double the amount. So you can tell just that way it's a much more expensive product. And again, you got griping in the comment section, right? It's really fun if you guys haven't done that. Like, subscribe to these big campaign pages on Board Game Geek before the campaign launches. And so like on the first day that they launch, oh, it's glorious. I drink their tears of agony and despair and irritation, and it powers me to make this video. Anyway, so this is got $1.25 million, and you can get a secret free day one box, but now you get this, all who back in the first 24 hours and pledge for a full game. So this is separate than the secret box that I was going to spoil and open up on one of my other videos. I decided not to, but it's different than that. I think someone said, I didn't spoil it at all. Like, I think it's non-gameplay. Anyway, I don't really know. I don't pay attention. I haven't gotten mine out of the box yet. Like, I didn't get mine up in time to make the hotness of this page. Maybe I will. You know what? Side challenge right here. I need to get time off over the holidays. And maybe this is like what the Brothers Murph did, right? They said, we're going to play Gloomhaven in a week. What if I said, I'm going to play Oathsworn in 24 hours? I'm going to play all 21 scenarios in 24 hours or in a weekend, and film that or do something like that, right? Like, that'd be anyway, I don't have that much time. Like, I have a family and I have kids and responsibilities and work, and I'd love to do that. That's a great conceptual idea. I guarantee, now that I've said it, someone is going to watch this video and steal that idea. Guarantee it. Liege Nostradamus, again, just like at the beginning with Cthulhu Death May Die. It's got 21 chapters. It's got a bunch of stuff. It's got 9.3. Everyone is saying it's the best thing that they've ever played, ever in the history of the world, and the best writing and history and gaming. And no one should ever make another game again because this surpasses anything that can ever be made again. Okay, that was a little bit of a hyperbole, but you know, that's what people are saying. They're saying that this is the game of the year, the game of the century, the game of the century, of the year, of the millennium, for the week, if you will. So I wouldn't know. I think I'm gonna really like this game, and I think it's gonna be really good. But I also don't want to spoil it, so I haven't watched other people's reviews. I haven't watched other people's thoughts. I mean, this is boss battling, upgradable, open campaign scenario game taken to the nth degree. This is more like a better version of Kingdom Death Monster. Blasphemy, said the comment section. And, you know, Kingdom Death Monster, it just isn't capable to get to the table very often. It's just not very good in that way. And so I've been long time wanting to sell it. Now, the only problem I have with this upgrade thing, I have no problems with upgrade kits in general. The problem with this particular upgrade kit is, just like with Fall of Avalon, who's sitting right next to me down on the ground, I took it down for some reason from here. I don't know. I was messing around with stuff, and I'm absent-minded like that, so it's not up back there. Maybe later in the video I'll put it back up there, and you can like click in the comment section and tell me what time that I put it up there in the video. Anyway, but Liege tangent. That's why people don't subscribe to me, because everyone else likes their commentary very board game focused. I am not going to get this until when? Like this upgrade kit. Now it says October 2023 here. So I guess I just don't see anything that says, and maybe this says it elsewhere, that you can get this upgraded and sooner, like expedited. But like that was the problem with Fall of Avalon, which is why I got on that tangent, right? You're not going to get the Fall of Avalon upgrade kit for like a year or a year plus. And so do I really have, I can wait. I have enough games to play well over a year without playing this game. But do I want to wait a year to play this game? Not really. But if I'm not going to wait a year or however long it's going to take for them to get it to me, like within like the next like 3 to 6 months at most, I have no need for it. I mean, it's non-gameplay. It's like clarifying some stuff, beautifying some stuff, and upgrading a few of the misspellings and stuff like that. So I don't really need it. I don't need a dice tray. I don't need a premium dice set. I don't need a pouch pack. And I almost said something else there. And I don't really need the second secret box if the first secret box isn't really gameplay related at all. And anyway, like it's cool, but I don't feel the need to get it. Like I feel like at most I'm going to get the upgrade pack, and at that I might not even get, because again, if I like the game the way it is, I don't really want to wait a year to play it to have it upgraded. Like, and then I'm just paying $15 to get something that I've already played through a year from now. So that'd be my only concern. Otherwise, people are again griping about the increased prices comparatively to the first campaign. Well, no, duh. They're gonna be inflation. They underprice this, just like Gloomhaven. This is exactly what happened with Gloomhaven. If anyone was shocked at the sticker price on this, I think it was something like $85 for the standard version before, and now it's $125, something along those lines. Yeah. Inflation, costs, materials, shipping, freight, all of that stuff. If you're shocked, you shouldn't be shocked. This is also why sometimes first adopters are rewarded. Because sometimes if you're a second adopter, if you're in one of these 8,800 that are getting these massive pledges, well, now you've seen that it's really freaking good. You didn't spend 100 plus of your own dollars to find out if it was good or not. And so, you know what? That's the price you're paying for letting other people test it out for you. You're not going to get the same price in that sense when it comes to crowdfunding. You will at retail, but not at crowdfunding with these games that are that popular, that also do not have wide distribution on, you know, a web store-esque domain, whether that is big store or web shop of company. That's the price. So you can't have it both ways. And that's the problem, is too many people on crowdfunding want to have it both ways. They want to not back it the first time, and then they want it to be less the second time around, despite years later, despite cost increases, despite sometimes scope increases, even though that's not happening here. They're not putting any new gameplay out. They just want to get their people just want to get their ice cream and the cherry on top as well. You know, they want their cake and eat it too. Anyway, there you go. Minis, spoilers, clicking at your own risk. I have standees. You know, it's really interesting. I wonder, I wonder, you guys can tell me, because you guys have probably watched a bunch of these videos. I'm staying away from them just like I did with Etherfields, right? To not spoil my experience, to not bias myself, as if I can't be biased by everyone else saying it's the best game already. Anyway, but I kind of want to know curiously, with all of these videos down here, and we'll get to these in a second, like we'll just scroll to them right here, right? All these videos, right? All of the biggest people, everyone over like 10,000 or 15,000 subscribers is on here and more. How many of those have standees? I'm just curious. Like, am I like among like other company that does standees with some of these, or were a lot of these all miniatures? Well, I know his is a miniature, right? Anyway, that's just me. I had no interest in changing arms. I'm completely comfortable with my brand of being standee boy, and I should get that on a t-shirt. Anyway, a side note here, also second one. I need to figure out how to do merch. I was trying to do like logos for merch the other day, and like, I cannot get the graphic design to look right when I get the graphic made and then trying to put it onto a t-shirt on some of these like self-made merchandise sites. So if anyone is like super good at like logos and like that sort of thing, you know, email me or let me know in the comment section. Crowdsourcing my merch. Anyway, it is what it is. You don't need me to talk you through this. It's just whether or not this game is for you. If you don't like boss battlers, absolutely nothing is going to change this for you. Absolutely nothing. It can be the best Euro Lacerda game that's ever been made in the history of games from worker placement side of things, with Lacerda's masterful open that it could be, and I'm not probably going to like it because it's probably going to be too heavy for me, and it doesn't matter if it's the best Lacerda game ever, right? Like, it's not going to change my opinion. And so if your boss battling opinion is like my heavy worker placement side of things, well, this is the same comparison there. If you're not, though, well, here you go, and you can get all the endorsements, and you can check out what it looks like and how it plays. And there's like 4 new uploads of videos for it on every single day on Board Game Geek, because again, I'm subscribed, so I get to see all the fun stuff that pops up. Anyway, that's all I got. That's all I got. It's going to cost you a bunch of money. The core pledge is $225. Is that enough for you? Do you need the collector's pledge for $375 to get all of the extra stuff? Do you deluxify or not? Because this is one that you can do it on as well. Oathsworn into the deep with only a few tangents, and hopefully you guys put up with me, and that's cool. Thank you so much for your patience. Next one up, we're going to talk about Canvas finishing touches. Again, $200,000 in the less than 24 hours. This is insane. People love deluxifications, and this is, in lines with the chip theories and the deluxified base games of, higher production values of these games. And Road to Infamy is known for that with Canvas. They also did it with the Globetrotting one that recently with the Globe gimmick as well. Like, and I don't say gimmick as a bad thing. Like, every time I say that, it always sounds like dirty coming out of my mouth. But like, it's cool to have a gimmick. It gets more eyes on your product. And their gimmick here is that these are like paintings. And if that stays true, then, well, the third expansion exemplifies that as well, because you're putting these in frames. Right? Frames. Not easels, because easels were the deluxifications that came out with some of the first, iterations. But now you're actually putting them in frames, because if you have symbols that match on the bottom of your set collection symbology matching game in the first place, if they match the ones that are on the frame, then you can put them on the frame. You can even displace other people's, I'm almost spit there, you can displace other people's paintings in the frame, and that's part of the player competitive interaction that they're offering in this game as opposed to the previous expansion. It's offering more interaction, because frankly speaking, the only interaction previously was, well, I took the card that you wanted, and then it shifted the whole thing, and then you have to go for a different one that you wanted. So that's offering more. It's offering a new symbol, a new wild symbol, a new blend symbol, and then it's offering new victory points, because if you get one into the frame, you get a platinum ribbon, which gives you 4 victory points. If you have one at the end of the game in the frame, you get an additional 2 points. Even if your one gets displaced, you still get that ribbon, so that's kind of cool. That's what the expansion's offering. It's $35, and again, not a wide retail game, so you're going to have a hard time getting the deluxified version of this. It definitely goes for more than $50 on the retail side of things with both expansions here, $70, and if you want all the trilogy, $120 with all the deluxifications. And I again would argue that it's probably more than that if you bought them all separately on a retail or from their web store or whatever they offer it, because I know that it's an expensive game even when it's sold secondarily. So that's pretty much everything you need to know. I looked at the rule book. I went through it all. Those are the things that you need to know. Those are the differences. Those are the interactions. Those are the key pieces that you need to know. And like I said, it really does go for those prices. So it wouldn't shock me at all to see it at that level, especially with the deluxifications. So there you go. That's Canvas, a little bit making up for the little bit too much time on Oathsworn. Anyway, Aqua Garden. Aqua Garden expansion. If you had Aqua Garden over 100,000, you won the pool for this week. Anyway, that is the expansion. It's the Beachcombing expansion, but it's going to give you a Beachcombing expansion as well as a little mini expansion for additional advanced animals. Now, if you're not familiar with Aqua Garden, you should really go check it out. It's a sort of Rondel-esque game where you are moving your piece around this aquarium. Although when you use the beachcombing expansion here, you're going to be putting out a new complete board, which is going to have space for not only the original stuff, but also the beachcombing apparati that you're going to be picking up. Because what happens in this is not only do you take whatever action you land in, whether you're going into the aquarium space or the other collection space, I'm forgetting the name of it, but not only are you going to be taking the action or getting the animal, both of those spaces that you're potentially interacting with, both types of spaces, are going to have the beachcombing pieces. And so when you're doing that, it is more, speaking of set collection canvas, this is more of a set collection aspect to it, as opposed to the resource management and sort of optimization puzzle that it was previously. And so it's basically just adding 4 or 5, I think at least. Let's scroll down here so I can actually show you the graphic for a second. Stretch rolls, stretch rolls, stretch rolls, add-ons prices, add-ons prices. Where is it? Oh, you know what? I bet it was in the rule book. Here we go. You have in the rule book here, I'll pull it up so my face is in front of it, the sea glass, the bottles, the garbage, the shark teeth, the starfishes, the conchs, and the clams. And they all give you some sort of variable point condition. And here we go. This is what I was thinking. I wish this was on the main page so you could kind of see a little bit more. Sea glass, 2 points per. Bottle, 2 per 5. Shark tooth, as many sharks are on the board, if you have a shark tooth. Starfish, 1 point per. Conch, 1 per. Clam, 1 per. Memories of the Sea set, 7 points for each set of these 3. And then garbage tiles, you put them into your thing here for collecting the garbage. And then if there are ties, the fewest garbage tokens also loses. Ones with the fewest garbage tokens loses 3 points. So offering different sets of interactions, offering different ways of scoring, and just how you're going to be interacting with it. And the fact that the base game itself is going to be giving you additional, advanced animals here. And then they are going to be adding different anemones. They talk about some interactions between the octopus, little advanced animal is going to be actually able to hold a glass bottle, which gives you additional points. So things like that. And the expansion is going to be $37, which is reasonably priced. And like I mentioned with the upcoming video last week, if you want to get this all, this is always by far and away the best. I mean, this is $132 before shipping, which sounds like a lot, but I guarantee you it's probably closer to $200 if you bought it all separately from the web shop, the Japanese web shop from the designer. Probably even more than that, to be frank with you. The new expansion stuff here is going to cost you $57. You're getting one of them for free with the 37, and you're getting the other 2 included for an additional $20. So if you love this game, you probably want them all, although the expansions don't necessarily add a ton. The old ones, 1 through 6 here for $10 is, again, that's a freaking sweet deal, because I saw a couple of these individually going for a lot more if these are the original ones here. From the web shop for a lot more. So they offered the other game from the designer Ostia, which just recently funded, and his oldest, I believe, Arctic. So there you go. Shipping is going to be what it's going to be. That's actually relatively reasonably priced. I'm a little surprised sometimes when Japanese shipping is higher, but also lower, because sometimes these other Japanese companies will do like ship by freight, and you'll just get it from overseas ocean shipping rather than air freight or anything else. So it's a cool game. You move your piece around. You either take the action at the place or you pick up the animal to be put into your individual aquarium, and you're matching the individual aquariums to, sort of what needs to be where and who can be with what and what does it need to sustain. And this is just an example of the 3 types of advanced fish that they've put in this time. That's going to be free with the base game or the base expansion pledge level, but you can also get the previous ones that just add more and more and more. So that's Aqua Garden Beachcombing Expansion. Now, we have Dreadful Meadows. I didn't realize this one was launching. I never saw a launch date for this one, so I apologize. But splitting, the money again, $30,000 in less than 24 hours is very impressive. And I heard people playing this that really kind of enjoyed it. It's sort of a little bit less complex, more compact, tactical worker placement resource management game. And it's got the Halloween theme, which is a nice vibe, different than what we've seen. And, they're timing it right in terms of that, just like Cthulhu Death May Die. You're getting deluxeifications. They're saying it's not going to be at retail. There's going to be a deluxeified level that's going to include a special character that will maybe be featured elsewise in the future, but not in the same way, shape, or form. And essentially what you're doing is you have several different actions. You're going to be trying to produce candy. You sell candy for money. Money allows you to buy more patches. Patches produce said candy. See the cycle? Then you have your sprites, which are going to allow you to utilize those patches more efficiently to grow more candy in the first place. Harvesters, which are going to harvest the candy and score victory points, not only depending on how many harvesters are there, but how many harvesters are around them, because if there are too many around them, you get less points. If they're spaced out more, you get more points, but if you space them out, you're not going to have room as much to place as many of them down. And in order to harvest more efficiently, you want to have your patches surrounded, and you're going to be getting better bonuses if they're touching ones that are similar to themselves. But sometimes you may not have that luxury because these are not cheap either. There's a lot of money, there's a lot of revenue generating, there's a lot of how are you going to divide things in terms of the actions and the buying and everything else like that, because the harvesters are going to be based on, on what you're putting them on, and that's the cost. So the more expensive, the better patches that you're putting them on, the more expensive it's going to be to buy the harvester in the first place. Or do you go for the only cheaper route where you've got these $1 and $2 ones where you can get them down a little bit easier, sooner and quicker, but it's not going to give you as much. So that's the sort of dynamic you're dealing with. There's a couple of videos here that you can check out as well. There you go. The deluxified levels, there's no stretch goals. They say we've upgraded everything already in the deluxifications, and so you can get it right now if you want. They list very, very nicely in a table here the differences between both levels: acrylic versus cardboard, silkscreen wood versus plain wood or cardboard, double layer, single layer, enamel, pins, better insert, UV spotting, and maybe get it in a year or so. That's it. That's Dreadful Meadows. It's an interesting concept. I have no interest in it. It's not my type of game. I would be happy to play it because I think it would be a game that I could play easily and understand. But again, it'd be one that I wouldn't be very good at, and especially when I'm not very good at these games. And Halloween just doesn't do anything for me. Like spooky, horror, any of that vibe, any of that theme, even in movies or TV shows, as you heard me say before, does nothing for me. But it's a cool game, and I wanted to talk about it, so there you go. So we're already getting really far in this video, and I'm just getting now to probably the one I'm most likely going to pledge and keep, apart from maybe Spirit Island, although there's 2 sleeper hits I'll tell you about right now, upcoming in this video, that you didn't even hear about, no one's talked about, and that you won't know about unless you watch a little bit later, but I'll mark those as well in the timestamp below, so I'll let you know which ones those are in addition. But this is Race to the Raft, and this is Frank West's Piece de Resistance. This is Frank West's next take on Isle of Cats, only this is cooperative Isle of Cats, but it's with a little bit of deduction, a little bit of tile laying, and a little bit of randomness, which is speaking to my love language. And Frank's a pretty cool guy in the fact that I was trying to touch base with him on Twitter, and we interacted a few times, and he actually responded to me, because people don't always respond. And so when people respond, I really think that's kind of cool, because I never expect anybody to respond to anything I say. Anyway, 1 to 4 players, you're trying to get your cats, instead of onto the boat this time, you're trying to get them across the island onto the rafts, because there's a fire going across. And as the fire goes across, it starts to cover up more and more tiles. And you have these colored cats, and the colored cats can only move across direct lines of their preferred color. And so you're going to be trying to manage your tiles on a turn-by-turn basis. Everyone draws 3 tiles at the beginning of the round from 4 different piles, and then you just basically go until everybody's out of tiles. And after you add a tile, you have to add a fire tile. And so that's how you're slowly going to be covering these up, but you can't tell other people what you have. That reminds me more of Paint the Roses, which I also have from North Star Games, in the sense that, okay, well, there's limited communication, but there's also a lot of, okay, what can I do? How can I adapt? What's in front of me? And 81 different scenarios in terms of just like setups that are going to be different. Now, I also give them a lot of kudos because just like with Awakened Realms, when I talked about that, they are not including the plastic miniatures. If you want them, you can pay extra for them, and that's awesome, but they have these better looking meeples than plastic. I'll take that bet. I'll fight you in the comment section. Anyway, and you're getting the Kickstarter promo pack, which Frank always does. He doesn't make it like exclusive, but he basically incentivizes you to get it on crowdfunding, with this being included for a lower set of price points, including different pathways and some cool looking tokens here. So am I going to get it? Yes, I'm going to get it. I'll be pledging after this video is done. Anyway, that's what you're looking at here. Campaign book. Here's the Kickstarter pack and the extras. Here's the miniature pack that's separate that you can get differently, and everything else you want to see if you want to get some of the Isle of Cat stuff too, which is awesome because that's a cool freaking game as well. A couple videos, and that's all you need to know. Well, the price point is for the base game £50. Either way, the Deluxified edition, if you're like me, you don't need to spend $80. I can only spend $57. Yes! Saving some money this month. I'm not saving any money because I'm backing like 3 things at the time, and I'll probably be backing 1 or 2 extra next week. Anyway, that's Isle of Cats cooperative edition, essentially. Race to the Raft. Pick of the week, in case you're wondering right now. There you go. Isle of Cats, Race to the Raft. Because it is. It's in the same setting. So anyway, what are we getting into next? You know what? Let's hop over here for a second. Let's go to GameFound. We're going to talk about Escape from New York by Kevin Wilson. This is another one of those $100,000. And I really wasn't sure what to make of this because in some senses, I really don't like the graphical design. I'm really not a fan of what they're going with here. I don't like its miniatures. I don't really like that. But it's got $100,000. And I think that's more than just an IP, John Carpenter, everyone knows the situation, because I'm not really that familiar with it, and I don't think a lot of people necessarily are. What it is, though, is it's a very intriguing looking cooperative game of you versus New York, essentially, because that's what you're doing. And the price point at the hero pledge with the prisoners is going to cost you 75, but if you don't want those miniatures here, it's only going to cost you 59, which is a lot less than I expected as a whole. Now, I went over the rulebook because I really didn't know what to make of it. I didn't really know how unique this was going to be. And that was my question last week when I was talking about it in the upcoming game was, okay, what's different about this game? Is this just sort of your pandemic putting out fires sort of game? But it's not. It's got a couple different nuances that make me intrigued to see really what it looks like hands on. One of those big nuances is the turn structure itself, because you're revealing a timer tile, and these timer tiles essentially cause you to do things, and they cause you to actually potentially discard some of your action cards, because it's a game where you have your hand of action cards, like, and your hands of action cards is going to be similar but also unique to your character as opposed to everyone else's. And so it's one of those games where once you play all of your action cards, you have to do a turn to essentially get them all back in your hand. And so that's going to be what it is here. And you're choosing 2 of your action cards to turn, and then you have to resolve one at a time completely before doing the other. And there's going to be various things you're going to be doing, moving around, attacking, putting out fires, using vehicles, all sorts of stuff as you're slowly trying to make your way out of New York. And then after your turn, the New York phase of things goes. And this is a little bit longer rulebook than I was expecting. This is a 20-page rulebook with a fair amount of text, so it really goes through good examples of what you're going to be doing on a turn-by-turn basis. Like I said, moving, revealing spaces, revealing suburbs, inflicting damage, or inflicting damage. Not to mention, you can trick enemies, you can use special effects, personal abilities, as well as collecting items that you're going to be going across. And so you can see this is a fully fleshed out rulebook, more than I was expecting, more detailed. You have a helicopter, you can carjack a car, all sorts of stuff. And then they go down here into the New York rules, and this is the other aspect of things that's a little bit different. 2 types of enemies, but the other big mechanic that you're using here is it's utilizing noise, and once you build up enough noise, that's when bad stuff happens, and your actions are going to, depending on what you're doing, cause more noise, as it says right here, with gaining noise. And when you do that, you discard a noise or you do an event card. So you have to do one or the other, and how much noise you have depends on which one you do. There's a hard variant as well down here, but all in all, I'm a little bit more impressed than I was expecting. All in all, I'm a little bit more impressed than I was expecting just on the ambiguity or the vagueness that was on the page prior to launch. So it's nice to see that they've got, really a kind of robust rules to it in the first place. So it runs down through here what you're doing, tabletop simulator. You got some learn to play videos here. So I really would recommend probably checking out one of the videos. This is one of the few games I'd say this week I'd check out a video to get the flow, because the rulebook I don't have as quite as good a flow as I did with some of the others. Shipping is probably gonna be the biggest issue for you. It's another $25, so it brings it a little bit higher, but it's doing some things uniquely, and that's always the thing that I want to see in these games. Whether or not you like the aesthetic, whether or not you like all of the mechanics, are they doing something different to set it themselves out? And it looks like they actually are with this. So there you go. That is Escape from New York. Check it out. The other one that broke 100,000 on crowdfunding on GameFound this week is, in case you can't tell because I'm not scrolled all the way up to the top, but this is Trick Shot, the 2nd edition right here, right? See, 102,000, 103,000 just in the time I'm filming. No stretch goals to unlock. So, but it's one of those games that's just not widely available, and it's one of those I've seen people clamoring for it occasionally on the comment section, the forums, intermittently between all of the media sites that I go to. And it's just tactically based with a little bit of strategy ice hockey, where you are utilizing a specific mechanic. Again, they're doing something a little bit unique here, just like with Escape to New York. You have dice that you're going to be collecting. Now, this is not the usual dice that you're expecting, those, because most of the time when you do an action, you're actually collecting a die, and you have to roll the die to make sure you don't fail. And so each time you do another action, you get another die. And so you have to roll more dice each time to make sure you don't fail the action, but you can re-roll by using some of your stamina. And you're going to be going back and forth with this with the 4 different types of hockey players that are going to be at your disposal. Does that make sense? Pre-painted is going to cost you $90, and that's what you're seeing in this picture, which is actually kind of nice, because I hate those crowdfunding pictures. I was just looking at what was I just looking at? A crowdfunding one of Street Masters Aftershock. Don't ask why. I was looking at that later. And it had some awesomely painted miniatures on the Board Game Geek page, and I was like, wow, those are really cool. And then I reminded myself, wow, those miniatures were actually really crappy when I had them, and they're really small and tiny, and the details weren't very good. But it's amazing what a good paint job will do for something like that and make it look that way. And so if you're getting it pre-painted, that's even better. And yeah, it is hard to find. I won't lie, you can't get it. And this is a small publisher, highly rated. People really like it for what it is. Personally, I've kind of not found a great sports game that really enthralls me. Like, I've played a couple sports games, a couple soccer games that were fine. That I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool. I know why people would like this, but nothing that I've gone like, whoa, right? Like with some of the other games in my collection, like Dune Imperium or Spirit Island or The Loop, and just been like, whoa, blown out of my mind. So there's arena cards, there's ability cards, there's action cards. You're moving orthogonally, directionality, all of that sort of stuff. There's all sorts of shots that you're going to be taking, and just all the actions that it runs through right here. Like I said, these are the dice that you're going to be rolling. 2 pucks, blank, fail. All of those actions that you can take, the stamina, the checking, the types of actions here, they run through both the difficult ones as well as the regular ones. The regular ones are the ones you can reroll on. The difficult actions are the ones that you can't. So playing the game, it's right here. They mentioned the fact that if you want to play a quick play, they do a regular period game or a sort of arcade mode, I believe is what it is. They run through the differences as well. A quick play is essentially you're playing over 1 period. The regular mode is 3 periods, and the quick play is like getting rid of some of like the asymmetric character cards and like some of the arena cards that give it a little bit more spice, if you will. And the quick mode is 25 to 50 minutes. The regular is 75 to 150, and I think the arcade is like somewhere in between, like maybe an hour or so, something along those lines. So they run through how to move, they run through how to just do all of these successful actions in terms of what you're going to be doing and how you're going to be attacking it. Again, not for me. I'm okay with that. Check this one out, though. Again, this is one where the rulebook is really robust. You can get a full sense of things. They do a good job of explaining and a good job of comparing and giving examples, so you can get a great sense of how you're going to be playing back and forth. This is a 2-player game, though. This is a 2-player game. Do you have the audience? Do you have the market for that as a whole? I personally don't. My wife has no interest in sports for the most part. We can't even get her to watch the English Premier League with us, and we're watching like 3 or so games of the English Premier League a week right now, between Tottenham, Man City, as well as sometimes Liverpool, because Liverpool might, I don't know. Anyway, a little bit of Arsenal along the side, and then a little bit of Man United, and sometimes even now, we were watching the Wolves game last week because my two-year-old will watch the Wolves game because their jerseys are yellow, and yellow is his favorite color, right? So he's like, Daddy, yellow team, watch yellow team, watch a little soccer. And he says that too, watch a little soccer, Daddy. And then he hopes that we eventually go to Paw Patrol. But, optimism breeds eternal, right? Okay, that's Trickshot. That's all you need to know about Trickshot right here. Next up, this is my sleeper hit of the week. This is from the designer who did the game Night Cage. And I couldn't even find this one. I had to go. I forgot what it was today. I was looking at it at work, and then I forgot what the game name was. And so I went home, and I scrolled actually all the way through the Kickstarter page by Newest, trying to find this game. And it wasn't under the game section, which is really irritating. So if you want to know what this one is, check down the link below, because otherwise it might be a little bit hard to find unless you have to manually search it, because I even Googled it. I Googled Portents Kickstarter board game, and nothing popped up, which was irritating. So this is what this game is. This is an abstract. Now, I'm going to lose all of you when I say that, but this is an abstract game that is really, really, really freaking intriguing to me. And I don't say that a lot. But I say that's an abstract lover. So if you like abstracts, tune in with me here for a second, because you have this grid-based system, a 3x3 surrounded by 16 other tokens around the outside. And so what you're going to be doing is you're going to be manipulating the tokens on the inside to be able to match up in some way, shape, or form of the tokens on the outside. And then when you get 3 in a row that match on the inside, then you go on either end of the 3 in a row that you match, either vertical, horizontal, or diagonal. And if those ones on the outside match, then those are the tokens that you're grabbing. And those tokens are the tokens that you're trying to match to make set collections of to win the game. But as you make sets, you're going to put basically null and void tokens on the center that are not going to be able to be manipulated off of the board, and they're going to be stuck in the way of you being able to make those 3 in a row that I just mentioned in order to win the game. Does that sound intriguing? It should, because this game looks freaking cool to me, and I am a big abstract lover, and so this one looks really, really nice from that aspect. Now, the only thing I wonder about is, though, is they say if you get, of those 9 center tiles, if you get 4 of those non-matchable ones, well, the game is over. Well, if the game is over, then just no one wins, then I guess, is sort of my confusion after reading the rulebook. Because otherwise, you need, like, a set of 4 of the ones that are either matching, or you need, like, 2 sets of 3. And it's either, like, all of the same color or all of the same symbol. And it's the same thing that you're doing when you're matching these up in the center, right? You're matching either the 3 in a row color, and then, okay, do I have the color over here, or do I have these 3 symbols that are all in the row, and then do I have the symbol over here? So that's essentially the gist of it. And, again, Before You Play did a video on it, right? So take that for what you will, and that's everything you need to know. And you can see why maybe I'm excited about this game. $30 is the pledge level, so I have a good feeling that this is the other one that I'm going to significantly consider backing in the near future. And there's only 139 of us now at the time of me filming this, and it's almost 65% funded. So take that for what you will. But I wanted to bring it to people's radar so they could tell their friends, and who can tell their friends, and get this thing funded. So there you go, as the first sleeper pick of the week. The other sleeper of the week that you should know about, and it's really interesting that this just popped up when I was scrolling through my new looking for Portents, was Genpei. And again, I was literally just looking at this one this past weekend going, I ran across it on a Kickstarter Facebook ad, and I was like, okay, click, and it went over to the website, it went over to the pre-launch page, and I said, you know, where's the launch date, where's the rulebook? It said on the rulebook on the web, it said the rulebook was on the web page, it wasn't, I couldn't find it. So then all of a sudden I just ran across it, and I said, okay, wow, hey, look, I recognize that graphic, let's go check it out. So this is Genpei. It's got a clever system that I think you should be looking at, and this is another one that I ended up backing to kind of see how it goes as just an experiment. You have these clans that you're going to be trying to manipulate in order to reach the most influence in each individual clan, to move the clan tokens up the little leaderboard to have the most influence that you can, but you also need to have the most influence in your deck that you are slowly building and buying so that you can capture or be the one that gets that influence of the clan that you've raised in the first place. Does that sound easy? Well, it sounds easy, but it relatively looks kind of cool, especially for, again, $30. Deluxified game is going to get you metal coins and a velvet bag, and miniatures don't need it, but looking at the base game, because this is an indie game that's not going to be showing up at retail anytime soon. So the basic gist of it is you're going to be having this action combo system of playing a card from your hand, of one of the two cards in your hand every single turn, and then when you play that card, you activate the card's ability potentially, but also the place of the token that clan is on the board. And here, I'll pull it up if you can see it. And so these clans are going to be circular boards going around here, and you get to move the token one way or the other, right? And so there's going to be two spaces on either side of where it is originally, and so you get to choose which one that you want to activate. And so based on what you activate, you can also acquire more cards that go into your deck that you can utilize. But when you acquire said card, you also activate the card, their clan, on the board again. So you can start chaining these actions together and together and together as you're moving the influence, as it says here, so you can see that goes either way here. Then you move the influence up these tracks, and as you get to the top, you're trying to crown the new emperor. But if you have the most influence of said clan at the end of the game in your deck, then that's going to give you the influence of that clan when they're higher up on the board. Rinse and repeat until everyone has had enough turns, until all of the cards sort of get drawn out, or you reach other endgame conditions, and there you go. Again, Rado Runs Through did a video on it, right? Like, can't be that bad if they're getting some stuff out here. So I don't need the deluxifications. I don't need the one-player expansion. There's a two-player sort of vibe as well. You're playing with a third ghost player, and where it's the Emperor's son, so you're gonna have to be beating a third ghost faction, because otherwise you both can lose to that. So it's really a game that's probably gonna be better at 3 or 4, and that's probably the most contentious point that I'd have trouble with right now, because I have mixed feelings about the ghost player games that I've played. Like, sometimes I just want to play with 2 people or two-handed, and I don't want to have to think about adding a third thing in to manage. That's my only issue. So otherwise, I wanted to bring it to people's attention because it's not going to get a whole lot of attention otherwise, because I think it's a unique concept, especially if you're looking at like that 3-person player count. I think this is where it would be optimal, but that's Genpei, so check it out. Next up, another one's receiving a ton of hype, a ton of big names as well. I've been looking at it. This is Warcrow Adventures, and this has almost $200,000 in the first 24 hours as well, which is, again, really something kind of cool. This is from Corvus Belli, and this is more of a war game company that is known for their miniatures, and now we're having a little bit of, and tell me if you heard this one before, right? An app-based, open-world, scenario-driven skirmish dungeon crawl game, right? That doesn't sound like anything else you've heard in the past, 6 months, right? And so this is Warcrow Adventures, and it is taking a little bit different spin on things. 2 to 4 players, 69-minute scenario-based adventure fantasy co-op where magic is all of a sudden back in this world, and it's sort of got the D&D feel. There's the stain, which is sort of corrupting things and causing magic to go awry and all sorts of things along those lines, and you're trying to overcome with your teammates these challenges. And it's got a couple unique things. I'll warn you right now, the rule book, which I've looked at about 3/4 of the way through, is 50 freaking pages long, but it really gives a lot of good examples. However, the problem with the rulebook at the same time is it's really hard to read because you have things like this on there, which you can probably look at my screen right now and you can barely read this top part in the red, let alone this stuff down here. So they definitely, it's not computer friendly. It may print friendly from a color standpoint, but it may not even, because there's too much like that on here really to get a good sense of some of that stuff. So that's unfortunate. It kind of makes some of the stuff that they run through a little bit difficult to decipher. But the basically gist of it is that when you're going through these scenarios, you're eventually battling these monsters, or potentially just going through and not having to battle, depending on who or if there's anything out there. And you're using this sort of initiative-based system where you're putting your tokens down and then moving them forward, and the initiative tracker goes around and it moves these tokens forward as you go, and you activate in that sense. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be placing energy cubes. It's more like a little bit of Chronicles of Drunagor system, if you will, with the energy cube system, where you've got these activations on the side of your card that you're going to be utilizing to not have any preset cost of what your actions are, but you're only going to have so much energy cubes per turn, and how you want to divide them up on line by line, because as you go across these lines and fill up more cubes, it's going to give you more actions of that type, or stronger actions of that type. And so how you want to divide that, how you want to mitigate that, and how you want to do that is going to be your choosing each and every time. It's $120 for the base game, and they've got a few stretch goals already that they've hit as well here. There's going to be some Kickstarter exclusives, so you need to be aware from that aspect of things. And you can kind of see what it goes through, the unique abilities, the asymmetry there, everything you need to know. And just to talk about this card, there's a lot of stuff on this card. You have the basic statistics down here, which are going to be what you're going to be rolling when you have the skill checks. You have the advanced statistics up here that are going to be a little bit more of utilizing them in the combat. And then you have this on the right side, which is being covered up by most of these miniatures, is that activation track of your actions on a turn-by-turn basis that you're going to be placing cubes on, that typically all have about 3 on them, if we can actually find one that's not covered up, which we can't apparently. Again, miniatures look freaking sweet, but I don't see a good example. I may have to just pull it up in the rulebook for you here in a second. Miniatures, stuff, background, how to play, threat, compatible with the war game, rulebook, video. Here is the combat activation management as you're moving these across, depending on how far it moves and who's there. Then, again, it does sort of the, not Rondel-esque thing, but, last place one goes next sort of situation. So the other thing I'll say about the dice, it's dice-driven combat. You're going to have 3 dice that are going to be attack dice. You have 3 dice that are going to be defensive dice, and each of them are going to have significant strength. So like it upgrades from like yellow, red, orange, right? Or yellow, orange, red, I think it is. So like yellow being the worst attack die, red being the best, and there are going to be things that are going to allow you to upgrade dice or downgrade dice depending on what you want, how you want, because even at those different levels, it's not just going to be like red is automatically the best one to have, because red is going to have stuff that maybe yellow doesn't, and yellow is going to have stuff that maybe red doesn't. So maybe you want one of the other ones at certain times, depending on the ability, depending on what you're going for. App-driven foes to keep track of it, and you can have your own map and like the open world session that I mentioned. Review, preview, all the videos you need to know, and then shipping down here, which is going to be pretty expensive for this one. It's going to be 40 euros to USA. EU is going to be potentially the same, and so that's not insignificant. That's not insignificant at all. So just take that for what it is. Again, if shipping is going to make it or break it for this for you, my suggestion is always pass. It's doing stuff that appears to be slightly different. It's just how different do you want it? Because the combat system is going to be mostly dice-based, like I mentioned. Here's a blown-up version of that card that I was mentioning, so you can see sort of the actions as you're going across, and some of the unlocks, I'm assuming right here, that are going to be available to you as you get stronger and upgrade your character. Here are the dice that are going to be associated with these 6 statistics. You can see, like, down here, right, it says, oh, you can't even read it. Like, this is 9 right here. It runs through these. I highlighted it, makes it even worse. And 10, it just basically says these are your action things. Like, I had to squint and put my face up next to the iPad to actually get this on here. And then it runs through the other statistics that are up here that you're going to be taking advantage of or utilizing. But there's a lot of stuff on the card there. You have a grid-based system with line of sight in terms of your actions you're going to be taking. You have ranges that you're going to be dealing with, and a lot of things that are going to be affected by that. And then they run through the dice here that I mentioned. You've got the yellow, orange, red, you've got the black, blue, green. So it sort of runs you through what you're going to be seeing on those dice, as well as what the sides are going to have. If I can scroll up here and kind of find it without having to cut out too much video in between. Yep, here you go. Shows you the sides. So you can notice that the red has all these pluses on it, but then they have little icons here, and they all have a little bit different configuration as well. So the things that are going to be on there in terms of what you need to know. So that is Warcrow Adventures. Check it out if you want. Next up, we're going back and forth. I'm sorry, big game found here. This is Barbarian Kingdoms. This is 14,000 of $10,000 goal. And so what do you need to know about this fast-paced, asymmetric, conquer, battling, Risk-esque? There's comparisons to Risk down there being better than Risk, 100 times better than Risk. And so it's giving you a little bit of everything you need to know in this 3 to 6 player area control, battle, not war game, but area control style, asymmetric game from that aspect. 6 unique kingdoms, 6 unique kings. Asymmetric access in terms of the factions that you're going to be dealing with, and you're going to be doing things including like bribing, bluffing, and outplaying with an economy that you're also going to be dealing with as well. They're going to have a Kickstarter exclusive, a deluxe edition, and a little bit of exclusives as well with some of the upgrades that are going to be available in this edition. The biggest problem I have is I don't see a rulebook anywhere on the page. They commented on my Board Game Geek post last week when I was talking about the upcoming ones that, they've had a lot of stuff that does make it stand out. But the problem is I said, throw some of this on the page. Like, give me specifics. The problem with all of this stuff right here, why back now? Like, it's all, okay, that's nice. But why? Like, okay, like, what is the racing what is the bidding? How is the bluffing? What am I doing with the bribing or the tricking? The problem is I go past all of these videos right here in the middle of the big thing. And, sometimes I don't want to watch a video. I want to see what's on the page. If I'm a layperson just scrolling through, like, grab me, take me by the hand and show me. And so it talks about the economic wealth here. You're going to be recruiting warriors, bribing opposing soldiers, deploying your army in some way, shape, or form, and gaining more territorial expansion to get more money, mobility, and options that you're going to be available to you. But that's kind of the basic overview that you get here. Recruit, maneuver, assault, claim, tax, rinse to repeat. Reinforcements to certain areas, bribes, resolution, but it doesn't give me how, right? Like, what are the nuances? Why would I want to do all this stuff? Is this too many things, too many times going on in a game like this? Like, I want to see what it looks like with a little flow, and I'm going to have to watch a video to do that, but I also don't see a rule book here, and that's where I'd like to see some of the nuance of, okay, what does the description actually look like? Because, if you're like me and you're a visual as opposed to like an auditory, it sometimes helps to have the written through. So that'd be the one thing I'd say is, like, give me more specific examples on this page, give me a rule book, and then show me what we got. And, again, seems solid. It's got enough information out there in terms of some of the videos, but I'd like to see a little more on the page. It's got 14 grand. We'll see where it goes because it's got 3 more weeks left to talk about it. So there you go, Barbarian Kingdoms. The other one that was sort of under the radar for me, I talked about this one last week. There was not a whole lot of information on it. This was Hero or Villain Battle Royale, the card game, which I'm talking about it even though it's like really low funding, because I talked about it in the upcoming video last week. It's just basically 2-player bluffing, card battling superhero villain, take that game, where you're basically having these heroes that are unrevealed, and when they're unrevealed, you can use powers that maybe not are associated with your character, and you can say, well, I'm going to play this and I can do this, but then your opponent can sort of BS you and say, well, no, you can't. Well, if you get revealed and you can, well, great, you get a bonus, but if you can't, then you take some damage, and you're going to have to be drawing as well these demolition cards that are going to do damage to you unless you have cards to block them at the end of your turn. And so if you're the first one out, you lose. And there's 6 playable characters, and that's about it, though. The problem is, you go and click on the rulebook. Problem is, when this is what pulls up on the first day here when it says you need access to the rulebook. So that's a problem when you want to look at the stuff of how to play, and that's your only choice here. They talk about some contributions by the other stuff that they've done. The demos are free to play. They run through a little bit of the cards, but that's everything. And so that's also probably why you've only got $500. Again, it seems like an interesting concept, 2-player, quick combination of BS and war, but I need more to show me why, so give me some more Hero and Villain Battle Royale. Next up, we have Super Snipers, and this one deserves your look as well for a small indie game. $10,000, just funded. It's got a little bit of a unique feel as well in this 2-player asymmetric polyomino style game that's played over 3 rounds. And the interesting thing that I'm going to highlight is a little bit of a zig, a little bit of a zag here. They have this Super Saver pledge for people who can't afford the full pledge. It's $25. They had 10 people do that. The regular pledge is going to cost you $48. You can also contribute an extra $20 if you want to be helping make up the difference for those pledge levels. Now, I mean, honesty system, but there you go. It's a nice concept as a whole. It's a 1 to 2 player, tactical, simultaneous, and even real-time battle of who can sort of deduce where the other person is using polyominoes through a 3-phase system. The first phase is just picking which one of the 3 areas that your target is located in. The second 2 phases are isolating them and then finding them within the area. And you're going to be using what are called focus polyomino tokens that are going to cover up areas, isolate areas, and divide the areas that you're going into right here. The location, the targeting, where you're setting up the grid and using the outside abilities, as well as how you're going to be using the polyominoes. Phase 4, cleanup. When somebody has won a round, then you get tactical advantage, you get adrenaline, you get ways to mitigate so there's no runaway leader, especially if there's an experience gap. That's why this game is sort of interesting. They have a quick draw mode, which is real time, 10 second per side, and you can just continually go. And that's kind of a unique concept. I don't see a lot of that. I mean, real time is, I am a big fan of real time. A lot of people aren't. And so I don't know if that's going to be the pull that a lot of people want, but that's cool. Adjustable difficulty with alternate maps that you can get. Some of the stretch goals are even more maps. So if you want to have more variability as well as a more challenging puzzle as you go along, you can adapt it in that sense. They give you the asymmetric abilities of the different snipers that are in your game. And that's pretty much everything you need to know. So check it out if you want. Rulebooks on there. It's relatively easy read. There's enough video that you can check it out as well. The flow is rather simple and straightforward. Shouldn't need a whole lot of support from that side of things. However, The next couple games, the next 3 games, I'm really going to suggest, and this is weird, I don't get a good sense of flow or how they're played based on the Board Game Geek page, the Kickstarter crowdfunder page, or the rulebook. So it might require a little bit more in-depth. I'm going to try to do my best, but it's going to be very overview-ish, top-down, more so than some of these other ones. First up is Hitodama. Hitodama is a Guardian-based, defeating an ice monster, worker placement-esque resource management pick up and deliver game. And so what you're going to be doing essentially is you're going to be placing your workers over these various areas, and as you complete rounds, the ice monster moves. And so every 2 rounds, the ice monster completes his cycle essentially, and he moves 1 spot. As the ice monster moves across, it's going to do various things to your worker placement locations, including freezing them, including putting tiles over them, or changing how they interact with you, or even your inability to use them in the first place. And so you're going to be gathering resources up to try and gain victory points in this semi-cooperative worker placement game. And what I mean by that is not like actually like semi-cooperative, but in the sense that if the ice monster gets all the way to the end before somebody gets 25 points, you lose. If nobody gets all of the objectives completed before he gets to the end, you lose. So that's what you're dealing with in this game. And so you can see how it sort of is just a very pretty game. But what you also need to know is that you're going to be having seasonal distributions of action turns, right? And what I mean by that is the initiative order of your workers taking their actions is going to be based on the seasons, and it's going to cycle what order they happen in and where they start. And that's the different dynamic that this game gives apart from others. There's a standard edition right here, a little bit of exclusives, just minor exclusives in terms of the playmat, and deluxeifications, which also includes a little bit of an OST, a digital art book, and a little bit bigger playmat, and I believe, what was it up here? The print and play of one of their other award-winning games. So yeah, this is how you're playing, right? You're gathering, delivering, and you're going to be having to ally with the other monster that's on there, the Akas, and use the strategy that's available to you as the seasons change. Like I said, the rule book is probably going to be your best friend. At the same time, the video might actually even be better. This is funded, and this is doing really well. This has $26,000, almost 200% funded. So that's really incredible for a game I really didn't know anything about, but it's definitely got the visual aesthetic appeal. So check that one out. Next up, we're going to talk about Delta from Game Brewer, and I'm still not sure what to make of this one. This one is actually almost funded as well. This is sort of a action management, engine building, like resource game. I'm not really sure what to say about this one, as you're going through these 3 different areas, placing your workers in one of the 3 areas to take actions in that area. And so it gives you a little bit of an overview on the board here. You select one of them to go the areas, like I mentioned. You go there, you do certain skills that are going to allow you to influence not only what you can do, but also the player initiative order. And the player initiative order is going to have a very dynamic appeal, because the actions, resources, or just what order you go in, depending on what's most important to you that round, is going to be highly, highly variable. Paying resources, trying to travel further into the delta to get more victory points and bonuses, but not going too far or too deep without an actionable plan. Track your knowledge, discover animals, play your cards right, gain victory points. That's really the best I can give you in a nutshell. This rulebook is a little bit dense. It's a little bit not as intuitive as a lot of these other games this week. And so if you're going to have any interest in this game, from the deluxe level that they're bringing you here, you really probably need to watch a video. You can read the rule book. That's always a great thing, but one of these videos may give you a better sense, probably one of the playthroughs down here. So I'll say that's what it is, but this is an expensive deluxeification. They give a little bit of a table, I think, of what the differences are, if I remember right here, the deluxe and the deluxe all-in. So it's a lot of money, folks. Not anymore for the deluxe, but deluxe all-in is definitely going to cost you more. But that's really giving you sleeves and a playmat, as well as some deluxeifications in terms of inserts. I'm not sure I like the fact that the insert is a deluxeification, but at the same time, most of these inserts are not favorable for me anyway. So it's a take it or leave it as well from that aspect of things. Give it a look-see. Game Brewer, gonna have another one funded out here. We'll see where it goes. So then last up right now, we have Deep Shelf. If I scroll up to the top here, this one's 50% funded. This is another Intriguing concept. It reminds me very much superficially of underwater cities, just based on what you're doing. You're going down to the depths of the ocean trying to harvest resources to build, explore, and just reap. And what I mean by reap is you are just slash and burning the resources potentially. You have 4 different asymmetric factions that are going to be utilized, and it's a little bit of a longer game. 40 minutes per player there is not insignificant. Gathering these resources, extracting them, and using them to get victory points in the end. Area majority, as well as a research track. Each turn you get to play 2 of your 6 basic action cards from your hand. They list them out right here: move, extract, process, construct, home base, or science. And they give you a brief overview of how you're doing them. And the unique thing about this is not only are you only playing 2 per turn from your hand, the second one that you play on your turn is unavailable for the whole next round. So that's something you have to be very, very careful of how you're utilizing that. Now, if we pop over to the rulebook here, the other main thing, sort of like an event in Dead of Winter, if you will, but this is the exploitation, right? Like if you grab too many resources, you trigger what is known as the exploitation event deck. And so then you have to draw and resolve a card there. Rinse and repeat until the end of the game. The market is going to be adjustable, and you're going to even have a neutral party NPC essentially with this depth dragon of something that you're going to be utilizing along the way. Otherwise, this rulebook is really dense. It runs through the rest of the actions, extracting, moving, as well as your home base, scouting, and your science actions and upgrading your technology. You really need to give this one a heavy look-see, because I can't do it justice with this almost 30-page rulebook with a lot of text, as you can see, of different actions and explaining what's actually happening. Scrolling down here, the 2 endgame situations that you may run into is if you do enough research in the 3 areas, or if you just cause environmental collapse and the game ends based on how far the exploitation and disaster track essentially has been triggered. So they give a little bit of overview of the asymmetry of these. They even give some tips in here about what you should be going for depending on which faction you're starting with, especially if you're new. So that's a little bit of deep shelf. The pledge levels here, again, it's $76 for the base game, $99, which is going to include a little bit of extra coins and premium sleeves. So say what you will with those. 2 to 4 player, this is the other thing I didn't mention, competitive game, but they also have some sort of campaign game for 1 to 2 players. Again, I'm a little bit concerned about story branching arcs in a more of a heavy Euro-ish game. But I guess take it for what you will from that standpoint. That's deep shelf. Again, I really suggest you probably look at the videos to see if whether or not this one's right for you. A few more up here at the very end, and we have Pampero. Pampero is coming out from Ape Games, the heaviest game that they've ever put out. This is like heavy cardboard, that style of game. And one is supposed to be on my way, so you can see me fail miserably to describe this to you in a separate review later this month. But this is basically down in Uruguay. They're trying to replace all of the power distribution grid throughout the nation with wind instead of the various other forms of energy. And you're playing a heavy, heavy Euro-style resource management game to do so. That's what you need to know. It just launched. This is less than 24 hours. It's funded in less than 24 hours, less than 12 hours actually. So we'll see where they go. There's only 1 pledge level, which I kind of like. I really have mixed feelings about the heavy Euro games or the deluxeified worker placement games that have like the retail and the standard. I really prefer just put one out there. Don't make people decide. Just, put it out there for people and just see what they have. It's a lot of stuff. This is one I'm probably going to read the rule book on before I even get the game, because to prepare myself for how over my head I'm going to be in, right? You have these 8 action cards that you're going to be playing to the leftmost space, top or bottom of your board. And where you play it is going to affect the action that you're taking. So you see some A, B, or C, depending on where the card is played. You pay the cost and then rinse and repeat, right? But you have to consolidate in between to take the rightmost card from the top or the bottom, retrieving it and planning it carefully, because you can only get 1 back every turn, and the one not retrieved is left there and you can't use it the next round. So planning. That's all I'm going to give you. Like these guys who do heavy games, before you play, this guy, Rado, you got to go watch them. Don't watch me. Don't watch me for this one. Actually, watch me for this one. Watch me make a fool of myself on this one. So we'll see. I mean, it's funded. This is definitely a niche game, and we'll see where it goes from here. Again, I'm not going to do it justice with trying to describe the actions and mechanism to you, especially without hands-on. So I'll leave it at that. Pampero from Ape Games. Next up, we have Grindhouse Season 2. This is just like a sort of open modular, pick up a card, reveal it, move people there, and have conditions that happen and that potentially eliminate people. That's pretty much the gist of it. Now they've got a whole bunch of little additions here, or little expansions that go along with it, some of which are exclusive. Episode packs is what they're calling them. But that's about it. You have a secret persona with talents that are going to be offered to you, items that are going to mitigate things or affect things, and then you just enter rooms and flip it over and see what happens. Rinse and repeat. $60 or $100 if you want the exclusive packs. Again, these last couple are going to be relatively light because there's also not a ton of information on the pages. There's a couple of videos you can watch on them, but that's about it. There's no rule books on the last couple one of these as well. With Black Mold, for example, it's about a third of the way funded. I actually had the rulebook sent to me of this, but interestingly enough, they don't have the rulebook on the page. So Terrible Games, just in case you forgot, I mean, I would put this on the page. Basically, the gist is you have this real-time game where you hold your breath. You literally hold your breath, and your turn is as long as you can hold your breath. And what you're doing on your turn is you're taking one of these cards and you're laying them down and laying out this compound, which is basically your escape route. And there's going to be enemies that get in your way. There's going to be toxic tunnels that you're going to run into, and you're going to be rolling dice to try to acquire parts to craft items that are going to help you stay alive longer. That's about all I know without watching some more of the videos. That's about all you're going to get from this page as a whole. It's $79 for the edition, $100 for the deluxe edition, and if you want a separate solitaire edition to go along with that, you can get it for $150. Turn overview kind of goes through it right here, but again, there's this, but there's no rule book, so take that for what you will. Shipping is going to be what it's going to be. That's Black Mold. Again, short, sweet, and to the point with the last couple ones here. Towering Purrfection. It's a card drafting, tile laying sort of set collection game with cats and patterns. That's essentially what it is. You have these vertical tiles, you draw two of them, you keep one of them, you pass one to the person on one of your sides, you play both of them to your tower, you have to lay them with certain configurations, all the cats have to be facing up, you can't lay anything below the starting one, you can lay adjacent, but you can't have any gaps in the tiles. And then you score up at the end, and it gives you structures that you can make that are going to give you other points, it looks like here too. So that's essentially the game as a nutshell. The price point, let's see, is going to be $45 if you get the Kittens expansion and $29 if you don't. And yeah, let's see. Is it already funded? I didn't even look. It's 50% funded. First 24 hours here, so Towering Purrfection. Check it out. Last up, Age of Champagne. French, but also in English. It's funded, but I'll be frank with you, I don't really get any idea of how to play it based on what little English is on the page. So they're going to have it shipped, though, by, say, Christmas 2022. So if you want to be getting a Master of the Cellar of Champagne before the end of the year, you know, check it out. Again, I'm covering it because it's funded. I can't tell you anything about it, but I'm guessing maybe like a worker placement resource management style of vibe, but there you go. What a way to end the video, right? That's it. That is the roundup for this week. I've been review heavy. So tell me what you want out of a review. Tell me what you want to see. I want to get those numbers pumped up, rookie. We need to work on those because I want to do something different than other people reviewing, right? Like, I'm just not gimmicky enough. I'm not different enough. Not in the, like baity, but like I want to do something unique, like 3-minute board games. That's cool. You know, the stop motion, it's just awesome. It's something different. It's synopsis. It's, you know, short and sweet to the point. It's not rambling. You don't have to watch it for 30 minutes. You get a sense of whether or not the game's right for you. And that sort of, you know, something ish, you know, 5 minutes, 5 points. You know, I don't know. Why this, you know, there's plenty of other things out there that are like why this game is wrong for you, and I've got a few thoughts on that, you know, that aspect of things, but you know, we'll see. I just got a whole bunch of stuff in the mail as well. I got a copy of Planet Unknown that I'm maybe gonna get played sometime in the next week or two. I also, we'll talk about this more tomorrow, but I just got my copy of Dwellings of Eldervale, which made me think of a whole new topic of a video. Anti-hype video next week. Oh yeah. So that's all I got. I'm losing my voice, and I'm done. Peace out. I got to work all weekend. I'm missing at least one kid's soccer game. Maybe I'm gonna miss the second because for some reason they switched fields, and this field is like, instead of 2 minutes down the road from us, it's 20 minutes away on the other side of town, and I'm really peeved at that. My work is between here and the soccer field, but it's just super annoying because now I'm gonna have to drive that way. But then the 2-year-old, somebody's got to watch the 2-year-old because the oldest kid's game again is during his nap time. So one of us or one of the grandparents is gonna have to go, watch him, or do I come home and relieve them? It's all that stuff that parenting, right? Parenting. That's all I got. See you around. Stay classy. I need to work on the merch. I'm gonna reach out to Sir Meeple, I think, and see what they think. I don't really know anything about that stuff. Liege out.